All right, so welcome to another eBay unboxing. Sometimes a seller will send you an offer. You put something in your watch list. It's a good strategy. Put some things that you want to buy, but the price is a little too high in your watch list. And what happens is I'm noticing at least 50 or 70% of the time they send me offers. So I wait, like if there's something that's not like where someone's going to snatch it up, I wait like at least 3 to 5 days before buying it if they have a buy it now, because they might send you an offer. All right, let's get this open. The seller actually sent me an offer right away, which was phenomenal. I put it in my watch list. Within 5 minutes, there was an offer. Oh my goodness. This is much bigger than I thought it was going to be. This is really, really beautiful. All right, so what we have here is a Cameo. Now, this is not real gold. 9 times out of 10, it's not. I mean, I could do a test, but generally these old Victorian pieces or early 20th century pieces are not marked, even as early as the Georgian period. All right, so I took it outside to actually show it to you better. So this is most likely made out of pinchbeck. Pinchbeck is not real gold. It was actually popularized around the 1740s by a watchmaker by the last name of Pinchbeck, and it was an affordable way to actually have gold looking jewelry, because around that time and before that, gold was only 18 karat gold and unaffordable for most people. So it became more affordable by making it gilded metal, which was mostly copper and some other base metals. Now, how do you tell you have a real Cameo? Try to hold it up to the light, and if you see the silhouette through the back of it, it's real. Now, I'm going to try to show it to you in the light. You can see the silhouette right through it. That is a really good sign, because there are a lot of fakes out there. So a lot of the fakes are made out of really, really, really cheap plastic, like celluloid and resin and even glass. And it would be covered generally. They would have like a panel of metal covering that to hide that. And you can get really screwed very easily thinking it's a real hand-carved Cameo when it's not. Now, sometime I believe in the late 20s and the 30s and on, up until today, they invented some kind of ultrasound laser that would actually mass produce these for costume jewelry, and those ones are the ones you don't want to collect. You want to collect the ones that are hand-carved. Some of these were actually, it would take the carver at least several hours, a day, a week, or even a month to carve these beautiful Cameos. Now, I believe this one is old. How you can tell is by the back, and this was most likely replaced. So a lot of times these go broken over the years or go missing, and they're replaced decades or even a century later. And generally the Victorian ones would have a tube hinge here and a C-shaped clasp over here. The safety catch, this particular safety catch, looks like a European one. Now, they did have safety catches as early as about 1890 in Europe, but not in America. It didn't catch on until about the teens, like the late teens, the 20s and on. Then starting in the 30s, they really mass produced these safety catches by the millions for cheap costume jewelry. Now, there's no markings on it. Some Cameos will be signed with the artist name. Mostly all Cameos are made in Italy. People took tours of Europe called the Grand Tour, especially wealthy elites, all the way back from the 1700s up until like probably the turn of the century. It was really popular, and they would bring back a Cameo from Italy. Now, this one is a Bacchante, and she is actually a follower of Bacchus, the god of, well, also Dionysus. The Greeks and the Romans had the same gods but different names, and Dionysus or Bacchus, and she's a Bacchante. She would have followed him. Generally, it's debauchery. It's really dirty behavior. All they would do is drink wine and have orgies. So if you want an idea, Did you watch the Olympics recently? Yeah, I threw up in my mouth too when I saw it. The dude with the blue leotard with his shrink hanging out, and he was like dining and feasting and mukbanging, pretty much eating until he exploded. And then afterwards, you know what they do afterwards. Okay, we won't talk about that, boys and girls. But that's basically what Bacchus is. And this was a follower or a groupie, much like the rock and roll bands, they would have groupies. Well, she's waiting for Bacchus. And this is actually a mediocre carving. It's not your greatest, but it's not your worst either. Now, I believe this was definitely Victorian. The shape is very Victorian, probably made between the 1860s and the 1890s. You can also tell by the nose that this is not a 20th century one. The nose is very straight. If you look, it slopes straight down. Now, one from the 20th century, from probably the teens, the late teens and up, would have a pert tip of the nose pointing up, and the chin would be very pointy and angular. This is round and fat and plump. The neck is plump. So I'm going to go with this is probably made anywhere between the 1860s and the 1890s. Now, there was some people selling I could only find two others that were almost identical to this with a different mythological goddess, and it had the little corner details, and it was in the same exact bezel, and they both had tube hinges, which are not round hinges. Tube hinges are earlier, and a C catch. So I really believe that this was replaced at one time, and that is quite common for these pieces. They would probably sometimes even be replaced in the mid 20th century up until today, because grandma, passed on, and the grandchild got the jewelry or the brooches and what have you, and this would be broken off and they would get it fixed. And so what does something like this sell for? I think a bunch of geese just flew by. Probably they're valued about, well, it's not real gold. Sometimes you will find these gold filled or actually gold plated, but for the most part, the real gold ones, of course, are going to be probably triple the price. But this one would probably sell anywhere between $300 to $450. It's a nice size one, and it's not the best carving. But to tell if you have a shell, like I showed you, look through the back if you see the silhouette, and also look for a curvature. One that's molded won't have this. You see this curve? So you know it was carved, and it was not actually mass produced out of rubber or celluloid or plastic. Okay, I searched up and down and all around to try to find another one that's like mine, and I finally found only two, because most of these cameos are oval or round, and I found these in square. So this one is saying it's dated between 1820s and 1840s, Georgian, and it has a price of $349.99, which is $350. But if you look, it's a different goddess. They weren't always the same. They would put different goddesses. But if you look, there's the four detailed corners, the same bezel as mine. But what do I notice is the back. This is the correct backing. This is a tube hinge. That's telling me this is Victorian or earlier. The C catch, and I think mine was replaced, so mine could be from the Georgian era, 1820s to 1840s, but I doubt it, sort of. And the only other one I could find that was similar was, one of my offers. I sent somebody an offer that it expired. They didn't take it, unfortunately. Oh well, I lowball a lot, so I figure, hey, you win some, you lose some. But here's another one that's similar, a different goddess. And what do we notice now? This one's saying 1820s to 1840s, gold filled brooch, and on the back it has a C. I don't know if you could see the C catch, and it has a tube hinge. So who knows? This could be Georgian or 1820s to 1840s, like the other one says as well. But then again, this person could have been doing a search like me and could have tried to figure out, well, how old is mine? And then saw the other one and then decided, it's got to be, this person says it's, Georgian, and it's from the 1820s to 1840s, so that's how old mine has to be. And that's like a game of telephone. It's dangerous with antiques. One person attributes something to something, and then another person attributes it, and then another one, and then another one, and if you can guess what I'm trying to hint at, then everybody gets the wrong attribution. My neighbor was outside. He always foils everything. Him and his loud, noisy kids. And he's really nice and everything. And but it's like sort of annoying. You try to do a YouTube video, and you don't want. He's gonna think I'm a whack job. thinking, who's she talking to? Like, she's discussing the history of cameos in the backyard to who? And so I was telling you how to tell. So again, you'd see like a curvature. The deeper the carving, the better. This one is not, this is a mediocre one. It's not your best, but it's certainly not your worst. Trust me, I've seen worse. And I would say this is a pretty good one. Not the best, not the deepest carving, but it's quite pretty. And so, like I said, most likely it was replaced. This was replaced because these type of safety catches didn't really come in vogue until the teens, late teens, 20s, and 30s. Like, it really took off, mass produced these. And the tube hinge would have been earlier. And this one is a round hinge. And yeah, I think this was soldered on. And that's a good sign, because then we know that this is truly older. Again, to tell, you look at the noses, you look at the chins, you look at the plumpness of the neck. And I'm going to say this is definitely Victorian. Now, trying to think, there's other types of shells that they carved this at. This one most likely being sardonyx. What is sardonyx? Sardonyx is actually rarer than the other type, which would be cornelian. Cornelian would have like a rosy hue, pinkish, reddish hue, and the white part where the carving is would generally sometimes be freckled with different colors. Reds, almost like rusty colors, oranges, swirled in on certain parts of the carving. But since this is stark white, this is and you can see like the brownish hue, this is most likely sardonyx. Sardonyx shell grows much slower than cornelian and is actually more prized and more valuable. Cornelian is a dime a dozen, and most of the more inexpensive ones were actually mass-produced on cornelian shell. Now, the more expensive ones are out of precious gemstones. I've seen some made out of actually coral. Coral is really expensive. You got to be very careful. It's like a really cool type of, well, coral is a color also. And so it's a deep sea type of really precious shell that actually is a salmony reddish color. It varies. The redder it is, the darker the red, the better. And a lot of times, though, you can get screwed. You go on eBay, someone says, oh, actually coral brooch, coral cameo, and it's made out of glass or resin. Now, if it's made out of molded resin or plastic or celluloid, generally the back would be covered. They'll have a panel of metal or something covering the back, so you can't see. Like I showed you, like you hold it up and you can see the silhouette through it. Well, you won't be able to see that, boys and girls. Oh, I almost just stabbed myself and gave myself Victorian AIDS. We don't need Victorian AIDS, boys and girls. So once in a blue moon, you get lucky. Now, is this ultra rare? I paid $52 for it. $52 is not bad. It's better than paying $300 to $400 to $450 for something like this. This was darn good. Sometimes you'll get lucky, and the bezel is actually made out of real gold or silver, sterling silver, and it was unmarked. I've gotten lucky, not very often, but a couple of times. Probably like I can count on one hand how many times I got lucky where it ended up being even 9K or 10K solid gold, or and one lucky occasion it was 14 karat gold and 18 karat gold on another, but that's few and far in between. Mostly these are pinchback, not real gold. These were made for the masses, and these were not made for wealthy people, but more of the middle class. And a lot of these pieces are considered costume. I would not consider this fine jewelry, although I really think it's quite fine. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I'll be getting probably some more antiques soon, and we'll do history and discussion on them. Thanks for watching.